Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 302. UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier. If you're listening to this, you do notice that I'm 2 weeks late on posting this episode. So much has happened, but that's not really important. Let's just get down to the scorecards. Before I get to the scorecards, though, I do want to preface that I did watch this fight live. I watched the entire card live, and the difference between watching it, and when I say live, I mean I was watching it with a group of friends. So you're kind of able to score some of the cards. Obviously, if they end in a finish, you're able to score. You can just write it down, and then some rounds are super clear, and some rounds are kind of eeky, so you have to wait till you get home and then rewatch the fight. Well, that's what I did. But it took me 2 weeks, though, for reasons that are irrelevant at the moment. The point is that I watched this fight, and in some of the fights, we'll get to that in a second, you can see that you can never score watching it as a fan. You just can't. You never can, and I've never done that. Now, since I've been scoring these, I've never scored it watching as a fan, because when you're watching it as a fan, you miss a lot of things. You miss a huge ton of strikes. You miss certain things that happen in grappling exchanges. The point is that you miss a lot when you're just cheering for one guy. I say all that to say that I finally sat down and scored the entire card. Now, before I watched it live, I was scoring this independently before I went to a get-together and then watched the main card. Let's get to the scorecards, okay? Before we get to the scorecards, I'm all over the place right now, but before we get to the scorecards, there's a lot in this fight card. There's a lot. There's so many narratives being thrown around in between each fight. And when we get to certain fights, when we get to certain fights, I'll explain the narrative, because if I just explain all the narratives now, it loses its luster. So let's start off with the first fight of the night, and that's Raposo versus Lima. Okay, I had that fight 30-27 to Lima. It ended up being a split decision, but it's 30-27 Lima, all 3 rounds to Lima. In the first round, okay, Lima outstruck Raposo by 15 plus strikes. Okay. He's outstriking Raposo pretty fairly. Raposo has a takedown, but Lima outstrikes him on the feet by 5 strikes. Raposo does nothing with the takedown. It's just a routine takedown, but Raposo is outstriking him the entire round. There. You go to the third round. And Raposo outstrikes and Lima outstrikes and drops Raposo with a leg kick, but he still drops Raposo, and he outstrikes him the entire round by about 8 strikes, okay? So there you have it, 30-27 on my scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards, and this is one of the narratives of the night, which is the judging has been bad. Now, funny enough about this, the scoring is inconsistent, but it's not as bad as they make it out to be, and we'll get there at the very end. But for right now, the scoring is bad. All right, let's just lodge that in. The scoring is bad for this one. So we go to the judges' scorecards, and we have Adrian Castro. His scorecard reflects mine, 30-27. Eric Colonna's scorecard reflects mine, 30-27. And then Dave Torelli, his scorecard is terrible. It's bad. Dave Torelli has it 29-28 for Raposo. He gives the first round to Raposo. That's nuts. That's just a really bad scorecard. I don't know if he just wrote the wrong person. That's all you can say. Sometimes it's so bad you're thinking to yourself, he might have scribbled in the wrong person. And that's okay. I mean, that's not okay, but that's okay. If that's the reason, that's okay. But if he thought the other person won, then that's bad. But he gives the first round to Raposo. That's disgusting. He gives the second round to Raposo. Again, Raposo gets a takedown. He gets outstruck the entire round. No, disgusting. And then he gives the last round to Lima. It's a really bad scorecard. Honorable mention to Dave Torelli. That's the first bad scorecard of the night. Again, there's a narrative in this whole fight card that the scoring is bad. It is, but it's not as bad as they make it out to be. Even when I was watching it live, there was just, Dave Torelli, Chris Lee. Granted, I've done that too. But a lot of it isn't warranted. We go to the next fight of the night. All right, and that's Perez versus Edwards. If you've watched enough Edwards fights, you know that she's fucking infuriating to watch. 1 minute she wants to strike, the next minute she doesn't want to strike. It's a very unique thing. In this case, it's Perez versus Edwards. I had it 29-28 Perez with the close marker in the last round and the second round. So if we're just being honest here, you can argue an Edwards win. You really can't argue an Edwards win. Okay, you can have it 29-28 Edwards, or you could have it 29-28 Perez. This was very close. It was annoyingly close, actually. You go to the first round. Okay, you go to the first round where both had multiple reversals. Okay, but Perez had 3 takedowns. She had 3 individual takedowns. This round is hers already, just off the strength of the takedowns, with some ground and pound. Edwards was slightly active from the bottom, but again, despite the reversals from both of them, Perez had 3 takedowns with some ground and pound. You go to the second round, and here's where we get into close territory. Edwards gets dropped. Okay. Edwards gets dropped fairly close early into the second round. Edwards gets a takedown, a reversal, a submission attempt, and some ground and pound. She dominates the rest of this round. After getting dropped, she dominates the remainder of the fight, really, of the round. Excuse me. It's close, and the reason why I put a close marker on it is because depending on how you're going to count that drop at the start, this goes back and forth. I've seen scorecards that they'll acknowledge the drop, they won't acknowledge the drop at the start of the round. Obviously, if it's at the end of the round, they'll acknowledge it. If it's at the start, we work in this thing of, did someone build their way back to win the fight, to win the round? In this scenario, I think Edwards did well enough. She had a submission attempt. She had a takedown. She had some ground and pound. She did enough to win this round back. That's why I gave her the round. But again, I put a close marker on it just to be kind of objective in how I scored, just to give room to, okay, if someone scored this for Perez, I guess they're just counting the drop. But personally, I don't think that fucking matters. Edwards wins the round, at least on my scorecard. You go to the next round. Edwards barely outstrikes Perez on the feet by 2 strikes. Barely outstrikes. It's very close on the feet, but she outstrikes her by 2 strikes on the feet. And then Perez gets 2 takedowns. Now, this is the problem here. She gets 2 takedowns, but she does nothing with the takedowns. It's 2 takedowns, but Perez outstruck her. Excuse me. Jesus. Perez had 2 takedowns. Edwards outstruck her barely. At that point, it's close. And in this case, it goes to Perez on my scorecard at the very least. You go to the judges' scorecards, and like I said, they're kind of all over the place. You have Dave Torelli. He has a 30-27 for Perez. That's not bad. 30-27 for Perez. That's not bad. Mamuna Cuerdo, okay, has a 29-28 for Perez. His scorecard reflects mine. John Blix has a 29-28 for Perez. He has the second round for Perez. He gives the third round to Edwards. So again, close. He has those 2 rounds inverted from my scorecard. So again, it's kind of close. You can kind of argue both of those last rounds for anybody, and that's why I put the close markers on them. So yeah, 29-28 Perez. There you have it. You go to the next honorable mention, and that is Gall versus Hafez. Okay, I had a 30-27 for Hafez. Guys, watching this fucking, I didn't watch this one live at the party. I watched this on my own. 30-27. I was infuriated by the commentary. I was infuriated by I wasn't infuriated by the crowd, because Gall is from Jersey, or he fights in Jersey, whatever. There were just moments in this fight where I was thinking to myself, Gall is not winning this fight. Yet the commentary is, who I don't hate, and is the best commentary crew out of the bunch, tonight will consistently go from this guy is winning to this guy is winning from this guy's winning. A quick example, and we'll get to this fight soon. A quick example is the Costa fight, where Costa versus Strickland. One moment is, guys, this infuriates me, and I'll just get to this part quickly because there's a lot to talk about in that fight. One moment it's Costa's doing well, but he's going backwards. Costa's doing well. Round one ends, and then Anik then says because he saw the strike numbers that the UFC gave to him, he then goes a definite round for Strickland, which is not true, and we'll get to that. But my point is that they go from saying this guy's winning based off the crowd, based off one punch, to this guy's losing after they get strike numbers that are so inaccurate. I don't even know how to stress it. But back to the Gall Hafez fight. So it's 30-27 Hafez on my scorecard. Okay, you go to the strike. You go to the descriptions of each round. Hafez outstrikes Gall by 3 strikes. Okay, it's very little on strikes, but he outstrikes him well enough to know that he won this round. Okay, you go to the second round. Hafez barely outstrikes Hafez barely outstrikes Gall on the feet, and he had a takedown to close the round. Gall kind of had a takedown, but it wasn't really a takedown. It's kind of like an in-between thing, but Hafez is outstriking Gall, and he had a takedown to close the round. This round also belongs to Hafez. Third round, Hafez outstrikes Gall on the feet, and he also had a takedown. What's so crazy about this fight is that when Gall would land a very nice, clean strike, the crowd would go crazy, but a lot of those, not only were a lot of those strikes not clean, one strike from Gall made it feel as though he won the fight. But thankfully, this fight was scored very correctly. So we go to the judges' scorecards. John Blix, he has a 30-27 for Hafez. Adrian Castro, he has a 30-27 for Hafez as well. And then Cuerdo, he has the first 2 rounds for Hafez and gives the last round to Gall. Make it make sense? It makes no fucking sense. Honorable mention to Cuerdo. That's a stupid scorecard. He gives the last round to Mickey Gall after Mickey Gall was outstruck in this round and Hafez took him down. Makes no sense, but we move on. We go to the next honorable mention, and that's Matthews versus Rowe. This fight was fun. I thought it would be... It got a little weird towards the end, but it was fun. At this 30-27 for Matthews. Okay, in the first round, Matthews outstruck Rowe. It was kind of even up until the last few bits of the round, but Matthews was able to land a lot more strikes at the end and then kind of take the round. Throughout the first round, Rowe was landing the much more cleaner and cooler looking strikes on the feet, but Matthews was outstriking him essentially slightly throughout the duration of this round. He wasn't outstriking him traditionally, where most of the strikes were to the head. They were like leg kicks, strikes to the body, strikes to the leg, things like that. But he was outstriking Rowe the majority of this fight. From the inception of this round, he was outstriking him. Matthews outstruck Rowe in the first round. In the second round, Matthews outstruck Rowe again, this time by 14 plus strikes. And then in the third round, Rowe had a reversal with some ground and pound at the very start of the round, but Matthews had a takedown and a reversal with ground and pound for like 2+ minutes to close out this round. This fight belongs to Matthews. If I'm saying these names inverted, sorry, I'm going a little too fast. We go to the judges' scorecards, and John Blix has a 29-28. He gives the last 2 rounds to Matthews, first round to Rowe. Honorable mention, stupid scorecard. I feel like some of the judges gave the first round to Rowe because the strikes were cleaner, and he landed a lot more head strikes when he was 100% getting outstruck this entire round. But that's regardless of the point. Got Agent Castro. He has a 30-27. Gives all 3 rounds to Matthews. And then Cuerdo, same thing. His scorecard looks exactly like John Blick's, where he gives the first round to Rowe, gives the last 2 rounds to Matthews. Honorable mention to Blick's and Cuerdo. That first round belongs to Matthews. But another narrative that we'll throw out is this fight card was an optics fight card. There's occasional fights where optics wins rounds, and it's really gross, and it's bad. It's bad for judging. There's this guy's cleaner strikes, and him going forward makes him win when he's getting outstruck, and that's really gross to me. We'll get to that narrative later in another fight that I mentioned earlier. So there's that. We go to the next honorable mention, and that's Dawson versus Solecki. In my head, I was thinking, okay, it's 2 grapplers, they're gonna strike. But then once this fight started, I was like, oh, one grappler's better than the other. So there's that. I had this 30-27 to Dawson over Solecki. All 3 rounds for Dawson, for sure. In the first round, Solecki had a submission attempt. Didn't matter. Dawson had some ground and pound for about 2+ minutes. Solecki was slightly active on the bottom, but it didn't matter. We go to the second round. Where Dawson had a takedown with ground and pound for 3+ minutes, 100% his run. DC and Rogan started to argue the first round. Now, the reason why I say they started to argue is, if you ask them, they'll probably just say, oh, they were thinking about it, right? They kept phrasing these questions as like, hey, let's talk about this, because Solecki had a submission attempt. Solecki had a submission attempt, but the second half of the round was Dawson. And I'm sitting, and I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't fucking matter. He had a submission attempt. He had a submission attempt. Dawson pokes his head out and proceeds to then land ground and pound for 2 minutes. We're not about to argue a Solecki gets round 1 based off of him getting beat the latter half of this round. It's crazy. It's not like he had multiple submission attempts. He had 1 submission attempt that was not finished, and then proceeds to lose the remainder of the round. They then start going back and forth on the veracity of the submission attempt. I thought it was goofy. Real goofy. Again, we go to the third round. Dawson gets a takedown with ground and pound for 3+ minutes. This is a 30-27 Dawson. But you just know you're going to hear a fucking 29-28, and guess what? That's what we do. John Blick's, honorable mention to John Blick's just off the top. He gives the first round to Solecki. He gives the last 2 rounds to Dawson. Saul Diamano and Dave Torelli both give the correct scorecard, which is 30-27 to Grant Dawson. You go to the next honorable mention. Hold on. No, the next honorable mention. And that's Almeida versus Kopylov. Here we go. Almeida versus Kopylov, where I don't remember watching an Almeida fight. Maybe I'll have to rack my brain for it. But this was the fight where I thought Kopylov was just going to strike well with Almeida. Well, it turns out that Kopylov felt a lot of the power of Almeida and decided, let's grapple. So I had this 29-28 for Kopylov. Ended up being a split decision. We'll talk about that in a second. 29-28 for Kopylov. The first round, Kopylov outstruck Almeida, and he had 2 takedowns, and he dropped Almeida. So 100% his round. Go to the second round, where Almeida outstruck Kopylov on the feet by about 12 strikes. He outstruck him by 12 strikes on the feet. And then Kopylov had a takedown, but he had a takedown where he proceeded to do nothing. 0. Okay? But he was outstruck very clear on the feet. So that round goes to Almeida. You go to the third round, where Almeida could have won this round if he had just stayed on the feet, but he didn't. So Kopylov had 2 takedowns, one at the start of the round, one towards the end of the round. Had 2 takedowns with very little ground and pound, which kind of won him this round. Almeida was active on the bottom, and it was close on strikes. So it was close on the feet, and then Kopylov will get a takedown. it's close on the feet, then Kopylov would get a takedown. Kopylov won this just based off of being really, really smart. Again, 29-28 for Kopylov. You go to the scorecards. And Eric Colon, his scorecard reflects mine. First round for Kopylov, last round for Kopylov. Saul D'Amato, just a ridiculous scorecard. He gives the first round to Kopylov, last round to Kopylov. He gives the third round to Kopylov as well. Kopylov does nothing with the takedown, gets outstruck supremely well on the feet, takes down Almeida, and proceeds to grab a blanket and sleep on him. He sleeps on him. He doesn't do anything. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Honorable mention to Saul D'Amato. That's a terrible scorecard. Then we go to Chrisley, where we get a slightly even worse scorecard. Gives the first round to Kopylov, gives the second round to Almeida. That's correct, and then make it make sense to me. He gives the last round to Almeida. No, it's close on the feet. They're pretty close on strikes, and Kopylov gets 2 takedowns, and he actually is a lot more active, 10,000 times more active than he was in the second round when he had a takedown. So honorable mention to Chrisley as well. Just wonky scorecards, but the right person won. You go to the next honorable mention, and this is my fight of the night. Not on like the fight being entertaining. The fight in wholesale wasn't entertaining. It was actually a pretty shitty fight. And I want to talk, before I even get into this fight, it's Strickland versus Costa. I want to talk about Strickland's style. Okay, a lot is mentioned about Strickland's style, about how it's very one-dimensional. He does the same thing. His style, to me, is a style I wish I had if I fought somebody. It's awesome. It's cool. It's great. Now, is it cool for television? Probably not. Definitely not. Is it cool for, like, if you were a boxer? Sure. But his style is cool, and his style, for most of his matchups, win fights. The fight against Hermanson, granted, that's also him deterring takedowns, won him that fight. The fight against Cannonier, robbery, won him that fight 4-1 on my scorecard, if I can remember correctly. The fight against Imavov, yeah, he won that. The fight against Dricus, that wasn't well, because I thought he lost that fight. I think he lost that fight for sure. The point I'm trying to make is this, is that in this fight, 2 things. This fight was an optical disaster for Costa. If Costa doesn't move backwards too much, not even too much, because the scorecards were kind of out of his favor a lot. If Costa doesn't move backwards and lands the same amount of strikes he did, he wins this fight going away. He wins this fight. Another narrative is, if it's 3 rounds, he wins this fight also. Yes, sure. If it's 3 rounds, he may win this fight. At least on my scorecard, he wins this fight, but that's beyond the point. Just a weird narrative here is Strickland's style is very unique. Some would say boring, whatever. The problem isn't even the style. The problem is his strikes aren't landing. And that's the problem in this fight. Let's forget about the commentary for a second, because the commentary was really bad in this fight. One moment, it's Costa's doing well. The next minute is Strickland's winning. They're getting thrown strike numbers, which mostly are inflated because of teep kicks that aren't landing, most of them aren't digging to the body. Most of them are push kicks, actually, and most of them are being deflected off of Costa's hip. So those strikes aren't even significant. A lot of those strikes aren't significant, I will say. A lot of those strikes aren't significant. And by the way, most of the rounds, I want to say, not even most of the rounds, 3 to 4 of these rounds, Costa is actually outstriking Strickland. Yet, because Strickland is moving forward. Now, if the strikes were close, if the strikes were even, and Strickland was doing what he was doing to Costa, which is walking him down, then hell, we'd have a 50-45 here. We wouldn't even be talking right now. No one would give a fuck about this fight. But for some reason, I remember watching this live at the party, and I was sitting back, and in conjunction with the commentary basically whispering in my ear from going from Costa's winning this fight to 3 rounds, that's DC going, yeah, he's winning this fight handily, to Rogan not standing on anything, and one moment going from Strickland's winning this fight to it's close, to whoever wins the 5th round wins the fight. At this point, don't listen to commentary if you're scoring a fight. If you are, you're doomed and you're fucked and you don't know what you're doing at that point. But forget that. I'm just giving you the ebbs and flows of this fight, which is one moment it's close, one moment it's not close, the next minute it's close, the next minute is Strickland should have won by 17 rounds. So another narrative in this fight is body language. Strickland is walking down Costa the entire time, but we've seen many fights where someone is walking someone down but getting outstruck. Now, it's not the same optics. I want to compare this fight to like Hack Perez versus Hooker, where Hooker is being walked down by Hack Perez, but Hooker is outstriking Hack Perez. Well, like he's outstriking him precisely. And in this fight, it's similar to the same thing, where Strickland is just lobbing teeps. He lobs more teeps than he lobs like strikes with his hands. And some of them dig, most of them don't. A lot of them miss. And yet Costa is outstriking him to the body. He's outstriking him to the legs. He lands to the head occasionally. He's outstriking him well. I have him up 15 strikes in this first round. Excuse me, where are my notes at? So I don't get this fucking wrong. 15 fucking strikes in this first round. And yet, for some reason, the strike numbers come up, and they... I'm so fucking lost. The strike numbers come up, and they show that Strickland's beating him 22 to something, and I'm going, what the fuck what are we watching? Because he's walking him down, he's winning. By the end of the round, and it's like a great round for the former champion. I'm thinking to myself, no, that's just not true. Even when I was watching this live at the party, I sat there looking at no one, and I look over to my friend, and I'm like, hey, they just said that first round went to Strickland. That's not even true. No one says anything. But then I'm like, that's just not even true. The second round starts, and I'm still fixated on the first round. I'm like, why are they counting these? They're counting these strike numbers. Weird. Let's get to the fight, because it's just insane how. One more thing. So the strike numbers in the first round and the 5th round. The first round and the 5th round are but besides the ending to the 5th round. I want to make that very clear. Besides the ending to the 5th round, the strike numbers are counted up differently now. So let me give you an example. The first round, Strickland's throwing a bunch of teeps and stuff that I explained aren't landing / landing, and Costa's outstriking him traditionally. Costa's outstriking him, yet the strike numbers pop up in the first round and they show that he's losing. Okay. You go to the 5th round, where it's a carbon copy of the first round, where, except less teeps, a lot less teeps. But my point is this: is that Strickland is still only throwing teeps at this point for like the first 3 to 4 minutes of that 5th round, and Costa's outstriking him traditionally. Right? He's outstriking him. Well, he's up on strikes before that flurry at the end. He's up on strikes, and yet. And yet, the strike numbers come up, and they show like 20-9 in favor of Costa. And I'm thinking, this is exactly what happened in the first round. Yet they finally count those strike numbers correctly. It's bad, it's gross, and the UFC strike numbers are so off that it impacts how the commentary is commentating on the fight, because the commentary won't just stay. There's even a point where the strike numbers are so in favor of Strickland in the 4th round, yet Anik goes against what the strike numbers in the 4th round say. The strike numbers in the 4th round show Strickland is up by a lot, and yet he throughout the 4th round and the 5th round, he then says, yeah, Costa probably won round 4, a very good round for Costa. He emphasizes that no. Despite what these strike numbers are saying, Costa won the 4th round, is what he's trying to like project to us. But yeah, he doesn't say that for the first round. He doesn't say that for the second round. He doesn't say that for the third round. He doesn't even. But when it comes to the 5th round, it's okay. Costa's doing very well now. Up until the ending, it's just all over the place, and it's and my point that I really want to hammer down is that Dave Torelli got shit for this fight, while when I don't think he really should have. So let's finally get into the scorecard. I have this 48-47 for Costa, with a close marker on the second round and the fourth round. 48-47. So if you're going to be expansive, if you're going to move this around, you can argue a 49-46 for Costa, or you could argue a 48-47 for Strickland. It's maddening. It's maddening. And I remember even again, I don't want to go off what the coaches say, but the coaches even then were like, hey, this is too close for my liking. Eric Nixick was correct in Strickland's corner, where he's like, this is too close for my liking. And it was close. This fight is actually close. It's very, very close, and yet the commentary made it seem like, man, this is just... How could one judge have it 49-46 the other, and the other have it 54... Well, because this is how fucking close it was. It was too close. It was way too close, and it shouldn't have been this close. It should not have been this close. And that's... I don't want to blame Costa, because despite Costa going backwards, he's landing clean fucking strikes. He's landing strikes to the head. He's landing strikes to the body that are clean. These aren't strikes that are deflecting. These aren't strikes that are not landing. These are strikes that are landing. And then Strickland, on the other hand, his shots are... A lot of his strikes are not landing. A lot of his strikes are being blocked. A lot of his strikes are being deflected. A lot of his strikes are being parried. Some of them are landing. A lot of his jabs that went to the face, even on replay, and I don't want to go on the replay because they slow it down, but even in real speed, a lot of those strikes aren't landing. It's just Costa moving backwards and leaning backwards. The optics were never in his favor from Jump Street. Let's go to the scorecards. Okay. It's 48-47 for Costa. In the first round, I give the first 3 rounds to Costa. Close mark on the second round, close mark on the fourth round. Last 2 rounds for Strickland. Okay. In the first round, Costa is outstriking Strickland by 15 plus strikes. He's outstriking to the head, to the body, occasionally to the face. Strickland is landing teep kicks that that half miss and half don't. That half dig and some don't. Most of them are push kicks. They're not even teeps. Okay. So there's that. I already explained the first round numbers to you. The second round goes in, and Costa's outstriking Strickland again, traditionally, by 7 plus strikes. Okay? Then here's the funny bit. I put a close marker here for this reason, and this reason only. It's an off-balance drop. It's not an actual drop. Let's pause for a second. He actually doesn't drop Costa. He throws a leg kick and then he hits him. That's not a drop. That's, an off-balance sort of thing. And it's usually mentioned by the commentary. It wasn't here. It wasn't. Cool. And I'm not saying the commentary controls the scorecards. I'm just saying how people perceive fights and things like that. He gets dropped, but he doesn't because he's off balance. But that's regardless of the point. Either way, Costa still outstrikes Strickland by 7 plus strikes. I put a close marker there to be slightly objective to that drop, to acknowledge that drop that I don't think was a drop. Regardless, I gave that round to Costa. You go to the third round. Costa outstrikes Strickland, this time by 4 strikes, but he outstrikes him pretty well enough to win this round. Okay? This is starting to feel like shades of Duplessis and Strickland. It feels like that a little bit. You go to the fourth round where it's close on strikes. It's very close on strikes. And in this case, you give the edge to Strickland. Strickland's walking him down, and they're fairly even on strikes here. They're both landing frequently on each other, cleanly, in this fourth round. Okay? You go to the fifth round where, again, it's close on strikes again. It's close on strikes. And the reason why it's close on strikes is for 4 minutes of this round, Costa's winning. He's winning the round. It's only until the flurry at the end where Strickland catches Costa, and then the strike numbers start to dwindle down to basically close to even. I don't believe Strickland overtakes him on strikes, but he drops him. And that's clear. And you give the round to Strickland there. But he's outstriking Costa's outstriking Strickland up until that moment in the very last round. I remember watching this live and I was thinking to myself, what the I was like, what? I was like, wow, they didn't acknowledge that first round. I'm watching the rest of them. I'm like, this is kind of close, but I guess Strickland's winning because he's walking him down. Like, just in the back of my head, I'm like, I'll go home and score this later. But I'm like, no, that fight's too close. Just watching it. And even everyone there was like, yeah, Strickland won this fight. And I was like, yeah, Strickland won the fight. Okay. And then I got home and I scored. And I'm like, no. I have Costa winning this fight, but you can argue Strickland won the fight off of how close some of these rounds are. It's so ridiculous. I just hate this fight for narrative's sake, but I don't think Costa did that bad of a job. I just think it's weird how it ended up being. All right, and then we go to the championship fight, the final fight of the night, and that's Makhachev. Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. We go to the scorecards of Strickland versus Costa. Okay, we go to the scorecards. We start with Saul Diamano. First round, he's the only... I lie. He's the second judge to give the first round to Costa. And that's correct. Because he outstruck him correctly and well. He gives the first round to Costa. He gives the second round to Strickland. I can't... I want to say honorable mention. I can't because I just gave the close marker. I won't. He gives the second round to Strickland. He gives the third round to Strickland. I think that's ridiculous. Costa outstrikes Strickland in this round. Honorable mention there. Fourth round he gives to Strickland. It's fine. It's a close round. Fifth round he gives to Strickland. It is what it is. He has a 49-46 for Strickland. You go to the next honorable mention, and that you go to the next scorecard, and that is 50-45 Strickland. Chris Lee has it that way. First round he gives to Strickland. Honorable mention. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No. Second round, he gives to Strickland. Again, close round. Third round, he gives to Strickland. No. I mean, Chris Lee's just going, oh, activity? Chris Lee's just going, oh, he's throwing? So I guess he wins everything. That's what Chris Lee is doing here. Honorable mention all the way through. He gives the third round to Strickland. Gives the fourth round to Strickland. Gives the fifth round to Strickland. 50-45 in his scorecard. Nuts. Next scorecard. It's Dave Trolling. This is the one that got shat on. Even live, it got shot on. In my head, I was thinking, okay, yeah, bad scorecard, but hold on, he might not be off. Like, I'll have to watch this. And he wasn't off. He wasn't off at all. He gives the first round to Costa. He gives the second round to Costa. Again, close round. Fine. Third round to Costa. I had it that way, too. I had it that way, too. 3 ways. 3-0. And I'm sure he's probably sweating. He's probably sitting there going, oh, fuck. Because even when I was scoring it, not live, when I got home and I started scoring it, I was like, why do I have 3-0 Costa? Why do I have 3-0 Costa? In my head, I was like, bro, like midway through like round 2, I'm like, bro, find me a reason. And then round 3, I'm like, fine, bro, I'm counting these rounds. I'm like, find me a reason. Couldn't find a reason. It's 3-0 so far up Dave Girelli's scorecard. Fourth round. Again, close marker. I gave it to Strickland. He gave it to Costa. It's a close round. He's probably he's shitting bullets at this point. He's probably like, oh my fucking god. Fifth round, boom. Gives the last round to Strickland, and that's where you have the 49-46 for Costa that got shat on across the world. Go to the next. You go to the last. Excuse me. Go to the last fight of the night. And that's Makhachev versus Dustin. This fight was scored kind of weird. This fight was definitely scored weird. Even live when I was watching it, I was like, hey, one of these rounds went to Dustin. One of them's... And then I watched it and I'm like, no, hold on. There's a little... They better not be... They better not put a little, like, sauce in this. I had the first 3 rounds for Makhachev. Fourth round I gave to Poirier. Last round ended in a submission win for Makhachev. You go to the score, the descriptions of each round first. Makhachev had a takedown in the first round with some ground and pound for 3+ minutes. Poirier was slightly active on the bottom, and by slightly active I mean he landed an occasional shot or two from his back, but that didn't matter. Makhachev won this round going away. In the second round, it's close on the feet, but Makhachev got a takedown with very little ground and pound to close out the round. That's definite. That's 100%. Poirier's round, Makhachev's round. Poirier was landing strikes on the feet. He was getting close, He was getting close, but no. There was this really good thing that Makhachev was doing where every time he would initiate a takedown that he wouldn't get this takedown. In between those moments, he's landing strikes that landed cleanly. I'm like, yo, he's doing well on the feet, and that was his version of just staying up on strikes, really. But Poirier did a good job in this round, but it was close on strikes, and Makhachev got the takedown to close it out. You go to the third round. And Makhachev outstruck Poirier on the feet by about 6 strikes. Had a takedown with little ground and pound as well. This round also belongs to Makhachev. In the fourth round, this round definitely belongs to Poirier. So Makhachev had a takedown. Poirier then proceeds to outstrike. Makhachev does really nothing with this takedown. Poirier then outstrikes Makhachev. He outstrikes Makhachev by about 10 plus strikes. There's a flurry, like, towards the end of this round, where he's just landing to the body. It's like a clinch. There's a clinch, and boom, 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 lands a bunch of strikes in the clinch. He's up on strikes well in this round. 10 plus strikes by Poirier in this round, and that round belongs to Poirier. This is the only round he won. This is the only round that you can argue for him. And then in the fifth round, there you have it. It ends in a Darce choke win for Makhachev. You go to the judges' scorecards, and they're all over the place. Eric Colon, first round for Makhachev. Simple. Second round for Poirier. Honorable mention. That's ridiculous. They're close on strikes. Makhachev's doing well on the feet. Poirier's doing well on the feet. It ends in a takedown with a little bit of clean strikes to Poirier's head. This round belongs to Makhachev, but he didn't give it to him. Honorable mention there to Eric Colon. He gives the third round to Makhachev, and then he gives the fourth round to Makhachev. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So, again, honorable mention there. It's a bad scorecard. You go to the next honorable mention, and Saul D'Amato, his scorecard reflects mine. He has the correct scorecard. And then Chris Lee, his scorecard is just ridiculous. He gives the first round to Makhachev. He gives the second round to Poirier, honorable mention. No. Then gives the third round to Makhachev. That's correct. And then the last round to Poirier. So there you have it. That's pretty much it. It was a wild scorecard. It was a wild fight. Just in my head, just watching from top to bottom, just wild all the way through. Just me being annoyed at commentary for most of it. Me being mad at the strike numbers that are popping up. Me being mad at the scoring. But other than that, it was smooth. It went through pretty cleanly. And that was pretty much it. This is late. It'll be posted late. But whoever hears this, hopefully they enjoy it. Thank you all for listening. And God bless.